Looks like we are live. Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Right, so today we've got a great topic that I'm going to talk about. Welcome everyone on TikTok. Go ahead, tap the screen, share the live if this is your first time joining in. My name is Tina. I am a happiness coach and I help people with being able to understand, heal their past trauma, depression, anxiety, dealing with suicidal thoughts as well. So today, the topic that we're talking about is we're going to talk about the cost of denial, and what that is, what it looks like, how it affects you in your life, and then also how it affects you in your business as well. So, all right. Hello, everyone. All right. Okay. So one of the things that happens when you have traumatic experiences, whether that's in your childhood and you grew up with that, or if it's something that happens, in your adult life, a serious car accident, a traumatic event that happens at work or in your personal life, any of those kind of things, those are, excuse me, heightened situations where there's an extreme event, and then there's an emotional response to that. But the emotion is so extreme that it's not really safe to feel all of that all at once. So you end up going into denial, or in the case like if you're in a car accident or something like that, you shut down the emotions, you go into shock kind of thing, because it's not safe to process all of those emotions all at once. So this is an automatic survival skill. It's not something that we choose to do. It just happens as a way of protecting us, because there's too many emotions that are happening all at once. So it's our body and our mind's way of compartmentalizing what is happening to us. And now I'm sure somebody with a science background could probably explain this a little bit better, but I'm just explaining this based on my understanding, what has actually helped me, and my understanding and process of how these events unfold. So this can be the repression of our thoughts. Oh, I can't think that way because I'll get in trouble. Your feelings, your emotions, you get told that you shouldn't be angry about something. You shouldn't be afraid of something. You shouldn't. So you have this physical response in your body and of what's going on with you. And then you get told that you shouldn't feel that particular way, especially growing up in a traumatic environment. And by trauma, I'm going to talk about, so if there's a lot of yelling, fighting, screaming, denial of your emotions, people not being around for you, you feel unsafe, whatever those situations are that you grew up in, and then if that occurs over a long enough period of time, that starts to condition you into believing that that is a normal way of behaving. And then you have the complexities of all different things of personality and, dysfunction, whatever psychological label you want to throw on it, ADHD, there's all different things that can happen as you're growing up in these environments. And it can be really challenging to kind of sort and sift through. It's like, well, how is this helpful to me? But oftentimes what we end up doing is, when we don't know how to deal with something, or if it's too overwhelming, that automatic response of denial, which is don't even know I am lying, kicks in. It shuts down, it compartmentalizes, and it kind of stores that in our bodies and our minds of things that we are unable to process. And eventually you get to the point where all of this stuff is going to bubble up and you need to actually process it and go through that. And so the different ways that we can end up denying what's going on, like I said, our thoughts, our perception of what's actually happening. It's like, they didn't actually treat me just like that, did they? No, I must have done something. So we deny how we feel, we deny and distort the perception of reality, we distort facts, whether that's through our abusers gaslighting us and telling us, well, that's not really how it happened. And then you start to doubt yourself, you start to doubt your own cognitive abilities, you start to doubt and lack trust. You get trained not to trust what's happening in your own body, that's telling you, hey, something's not right here. So we learn to deny our intuition, we learn to deny the energy that's happening, we learn to deny the facts of what's going on in front of us. All of those things, they distort reality, they distort the energy, and these are all survival mechanisms. But that there's a cost of that distorted, stagnant energy that's happening within us. And I know a lot of times when I was in 12-step groups and they talked about, so I was in the non-drinking part, so the ones that were affected by other people's alcoholism. And what they found a lot of times is the people that are affected by somebody else's alcoholism is they actually had more health problems that were going on. So you could look at the dysfunction of a home and find out that there are problems with it when all of a sudden that there's all of these physical ailments, because this energy actually needs to be expressed. So if you have this automatic denial trauma response that's happening, that's kicking in because of all the different things that are going on. And I'm not putting blame on anybody here, I'm just explaining the situation, because the alcoholics, they have their situations as well of why they're behaving in that way, and that's their way of coping. And non-alcoholics have their way of coping as well. So what ends up happening is you end up having all of these physical ailments of emotions that are not actually expressed properly because they're stuck and they're stagnant in the body. And anything that is stagnant energy is going to cause illness. It's going to cause discomfort. And because anything that is healthy, there's energy that is flowing, there's a current, the energy is moving, and when it stops and stays in one place, and any of those emotions, whether that's anger, happiness, sadness, joy, if that stays in one place for too long and you don't process those emotions, it ends up expressing itself in other ways. It's got to find a way. Life always finds a way, kind of Jurassic Park quote there. Right? And so when you're going through your healing journey and you start to shake some of these things up, I touched on this a little bit yesterday, that you're going to end up having these different seemingly unknown aches, pains, body symptoms that happen. You might start developing headaches, I know for myself, I developed psoriatic arthritis, and it took years to even be able to diagnose that because of they couldn't, the regular tests didn't show that, like, I didn't have rheumatoid arthritis, there wasn't any of that kind of stuff, but I had these other symptoms, and that was physical ailments due to the emotions that were being repressed. And that was after a couple of years of me being married that I ended up developing that. And there were a few different factors of different job changes that I went through, different managers at work, and then also being thrown into stressful, toxic environments. And so all of those different things, so it can be not one particular thing. Arthritis is like pain in your joints, and it ends up causing stiffness, soreness, Psoriatic arthritis is, it also deals with the skin as well. So what ends up happening is your cells reproduce at a rapid rate. So they regenerate at a rapid rate. And your body will end up start thinking that it's under attack, and it starts attacking itself and going into those kind of things. I know I'm not explaining that fully. It's been a while since I've looked up all of the symptoms of it, but the psoriasis is the skin, skin has got a normal sloughing off process, right? And psoriatic arthritis is there's inflammation that happens, and it occurs in the joints and various parts in your body. It can be on your scalp, it can be in your ears, your patches on your arms and stuff like that. And when my stress levels are up, I have a lot more flare-ups of different things that are going on in my body. So I'm aware of those kind of things. And the stress management is much more impactful and helpful with my health than anything. And it's a matter of understanding too I think that happens with any physical ailment that we have. And I've mentioned this book before, Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life. And she talks about the different areas of our body, of emotions that get correlated to different areas in your body, and understanding what some of those things are and how we can heal that through an emotional and energetic kind of feeling, right? And so I would highly recommend those because those are affirmations that you can do to kind of start looking at it. But these physical ailments that are coming up, so for example, today, I had a lot of flare-ups of stuff that was going on, a lot of aches and pains in my body, and understanding is like, interesting. So because of all this extra work that I'm doing, there's different things that are coming up. And so just, no, I'm not vegan. So I did try vegan for a while. And I couldn't handle some of the foods. I'm very much a metasaurus. So, but I don't know, maybe I didn't give it long enough, but I had challenges with it. So either way, yes, food does impact it, but it's also emotions too, because if you look at the emotions around it, it's like, I know for myself and my own personal observations of myself, and that's all I can do it based on. As I started to do my healing recovery work is when Louise Hay's You Can Heal Your Life, okay? Louise Hay, okay? You Can Heal Your Life. She actually healed herself of cancer using affirmations. And I've always said too that cancer is repressed anger, and looking at those kind of things of what's going on there. Our bodies are very sensitive, and they can be affected by the energies around us, and understanding what happens. It's like our mindset also changes how our bodies react. So when I start feeling these physical ailments, I also start looking at what's going on with me mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What is it that I need? And I start looking at self-care. And so sometimes when I'm not in that full self-awareness too, it's like when I'm more in that emotional distress, I tend to gravitate towards certain foods that are, higher in salt, higher in calories, higher in fats, sugars, those kind of things, those comfort kind of things. And before you, because of course, now if you want to eat healthier, there's certain ways that you can do. You can avoid those foods and just say no to them and kind of thing, but pay attention to what's going on there, because yes, chocolate. Well, chocolate's a given. That's just a given. Now, the type of chocolate that I'm craving tells me a lot about what's going on. So sometimes, dark chocolate has got some good antioxidants in it, or that could just be really good marketing. I don't know exactly. But I know that if I eat dark chocolate, I'm less likely to overindulge in eating chocolate, but it gives me that craving, that sensation, the ability to get some pleasure out of it without overindulging in it. Now, if I'm into the milk chocolate, caramel, that kind of stuff, some of that is also hormonal. So, for myself, I was actually, so part of my physical ailments that I'm dealing with too is some of it is, I'm sure, menopause related. So after not having my menstrual cycle for a while, it happened today. So that is also part of the aches and pains and joint pains that are going on for me. So paying attention to what's going on in your body is a crucial part of your healing process. And for myself, of going through sexual abuse and physical trauma as a child, and having that from the ages of 4 till the ages of 19, those not paying attention to what's going on in my body was a normal thing for me. So part of my healing process is to be in my body and pay attention to it. And your body is giving you certain signals. So the certain foods that you crave, some of it can be emotional, some of it also can be physical, and understanding the difference between the two requires you to pay attention to yourself. Nobody else can really give you this observation. You actually have to start observing your own patterns of behavior and what's going on with you. Like, I found that if I was craving ice cream, because ice cream's not something that I normally have, but if I find that I'm craving ice cream is like a mother's milk kind of thing. So that is connected emotionally with the need for wanting emotional connection, right? So it's like, okay, if I'm craving ice cream, and the thing is if I eat ice cream, certain ice creams, or a certain quantity of ice cream, it gives me a lot of stomach issues and a lot of challenges. So I don't know if that's a lactose intolerance thing or whatever, but I know how it affects me if I eat it in larger quantities. So paying attention to what's happening there for me, and then also paying attention, am I craving ice cream because maybe I need calcium? Maybe when I eat ice cream, I also drink a lot of water. So sometimes our body will give us different signals to say, hey, eat this thing, because when you do that, you actually drink more water afterwards, right? So maybe you are craving sugary stuff because when you do that, you also drink more fluids. So paying attention to the different patterns and the connections and correlations of what's going on with you, you will start to see some of your own patterns. And one of the things that I started testing when I was doing in recovery is I would see, oh, when I'm craving ice cream, I was actually craving emotional connection. So what I would do is I would reach out and I'd call a friend first before I actually ate that ice cream. And then I was usually fine. Same thing with cigarette smoking. When I was quitting smoking, and then I had a slip up after a couple of years, and I had a cigarette, and I actually had to white knuckle my way back through because I knew I absolutely did not want to continue smoking. That was something that I could easily cut off. It's not like, food's a little bit different. It's not like you can say, well, I'm just never going to eat again. We have to find these balances of what's going on. Go ahead, ask your questions, and I will try to answer them as we're going along here. So paying attention to those different things and recognizing those different patterns within yourself when I made that correlation and that connection with my own self of, hey, when I was craving that cigarette, what I was craving was the social interaction that I had. Smoking and inhaling is in the lungs, and the lungs is like that breath of life, that connection, that conversation kind of thing. So when I made that connection and I realized, oh, I'm actually craving that social interaction rather than craving the act of smoking or craving the act of eating ice cream. When I made those connections and I substituted, because you can't take anything away without actually substituting it with something, because the only reason you're gravitating towards that is because it provided a need, it resolved a problem for you. So you have to find a different way to solve that same problem, because that is a need. It's not a want, it's a need that needs to be addressed. Chocolate and plain chips are big cravings for me. Yes, so the whole salty sweet combination. So understanding, first of all, are you doing it because would you rather watch a tree grow or me grow? Well, the thing is both are strong, right? So keep going. It doesn't matter if you watch the process or not. It matters for you, Lily. It doesn't matter who's watching you. It matters you. And are you growing stronger? And that's all that actually matters, right? So don't worry about whether or not a tree is growing fast enough, or if anybody else can see that growth. It matters whether or not you are strong enough to stand the storms that come along in life. That's what actually matters in the process. Okay? So don't compare. There's nothing worse than a tree sitting there and comparing itself. Well, hey, I am not growing as fast as the rose bush. I'm not growing as fast as the tulips. Well, the tulips are going to die off pretty fast. The tree's going to stick around forever. So don't worry about, the slow pace of your growth. Okay? So paying attention to what it is that's going on. First of all, are you craving that chocolate because of an emotional reason, or are you doing it as a treat and a reward? Because there is a social component to food and eating and celebrations and connection, right? There's pleasure that's derived from it. It's like, we don't just gravitate towards these things because there isn't some sort of inherent value of them, right? So you have to choose, you have to decide, what kind of life that you want. Do you want to live one that's completely devoid of pleasure and just strictly focused on, eat these things, do these things, structure, blah, 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 because you want these things? Or are you going to devote a certain amount of time to that because it's important for you to do that, right? So it's up to you. You get to decide. Nobody else gets to decide what area of life, what section of growth that you are in, what season that you are in, right? There's no point planting your seeds in the winter time when they need to be planted in the spring, kind of thing. Those seeds are not going to bear fruit that you plant in the winter. And just like you can't be planting seeds at harvest time, right? So you get to decide what's going on in your life in different areas of your life as well. These are not something that somebody else can dictate for you. People can offer their opinions, their observations, and you get to choose whether or not you are going to follow that. And that is a huge thing for anybody who's gone through a survival thing, because most of the time we become so externally focused, we look for other people to tell us where we should be in our life. And I mean, hey, great if you're at hey, I'm in California and I want to get to New York, right? But you don't know how to get there. Listening to somebody else who knows how to get to New York, if you've never drove there, you don't have a GPS, listening to somebody else who's traveled that path is a good thing to do. However, you get to decide if you're in California and you want to travel to New York, right? That's the thing. And at any point along that journey, you can decide, you know what? I'm good. I changed my mind. I'm not actually going to go to New York. I'm going to go to Canada, right? I've decided that along this journey, I got some new information and I decided New York is not the place for me. I'm going to go up to Canada instead. Right? So you can choose to change the direction based on the information that you currently have at the time. And, or you may choose, you know what, fuck it, it's too cold, I'm going back to California, you know, whatever. You get to choose this path, this journey, this growth as you go along in life here. I wanted to talk about, so denial has a cost. The stuff that we are not able to process in the moment because it's too traumatic. So this can happen in our personal lives and also in our professional lives. Think of how many times there's things, and maybe it's not so much labeled trauma, but there's shit we can't deal with because there's bigger problems that we have to deal with in the moment. So there's stuff that gets pushed to the side. We deny those problems are occurring, that they're not a big deal. We have to shove it to the side. So anything that we're shoving to the side eventually has to be addressed, because if not, it's going to build up, it's going to stack up, it becomes stagnant energy in our business, and that we're not actually dealing with and processing. And that will eventually blow up in our face if we don't go back and deal with it, right? So this stuff, it's this healing work, this inner work isn't just, you know, crunchy granola, people who've been through trauma. Well, I haven't been through it and I've got a fucking business to run. I don't have time to deal with this. Got it. I get it. Did that for years. And now I'm here dealing with all this other stuff, right? Because eventually it does end up costing you, okay? So think of it in terms of, we always focus on speed of implementation. Give me the speed of the solution. I don't give a shit about why it's happening. Just tell me what I need to fix it. So if we look in terms of, you know what, I have a headache. I have sinus issues. So I'm just going to take Tylenol cold and sinus, and I'm going to take it every time I start having an issue. Fair enough. It works. It's effective. It solved the problem. I can continue on with my day. I'm not feeling as much achiness. But now I've also developed a little bit of a dependency on this particular solution. So now I have to keep doing it, and also there's a law of diminishing returns. So the more I do it, the more I become reliant on it, the more I need to sustain the issue, because I never took the time to understand what's going on to cause the problem. Plus, you have the compounding effect is like, oh, if I take this over a long enough time horizon, then what's going to end up happening is, oh, great, Tylenol has now, although it's been a quick, effective solution, you take this over a long enough period, it now becomes a problem in the form of, hey, guess what? You take enough Tylenol over a long enough period, and now you have issues with your liver. Yay. But you don't know that you're having this until it's gone on for a long enough time, and you don't see this being a problem. You saw it as a solution. Happy birthday, John Ross. You're 35 today. Welcome. Happy birthday. I'm glad you could join in on the live here. So these things that we do in life, it's so easy for us to just focus on gravitating towards that quick fix, that solution, whether that is in the form of an addiction, or that is in the form of you know, denying our feelings, that is in the form of, you know, taking Tylenol over a long enough period of time, rather than looking at, why is it that I'm feeling this way in the first place that I need this solution, right? Is this the best, most effective solution, or is there a better way? Oh, maybe the reason I'm feeling all this achiness in my joints and all of that kind of stuff is because of the food that I'm eating. Okay, I changed those kind of things. Okay, well, I've changed those kind of things and I'm still having challenges. Oh, okay, well, maybe it's got to do with the emotional work that I haven't processed, the emotions that I'm feeling. So you're always constantly balancing, is this a nature, is it a nurture kind of thing? Is it chemistry? Is it conditioning? Because we know that, hey Ray, welcome. I noticed you liked all my posts there on Facebook the other day. Thank you so much for all the love. I appreciate that. Definitely caught my attention. So welcome. So you can have these different things, and it's not just a one and done. It actually takes effort. It takes energy to look at this kind of stuff and understanding. And I don't think anybody externally can give us that, here's the perfect solution for us. I think it's incumbent on us to actually start to look at ourselves, start to look at our own unique histories. You can find me on Facebook, Tina Balmer, so you can check that out. You can also check out my YouTube channel, because I do post these live trainings there under Coach Tina B 125. So you can find my YouTube channel, and this is where I post the replays of the trainings here. And if there's anything that you want, or that you're struggling with, you want to know my perspective, my insight, what I've done, have I dealt with that kind of situation, what I do, because I share from my personal experience of what has actually worked for me, things that I've learned over the years, and I share that on here. So if you're struggling with something in particular, you want some help with that, let me know, and I will do up a training for that. Okay. So I did a lot of, especially in my recovery stuff, because I was also taking like a first year psychology and university class, and understanding the differences of you know, the chemistry and the conditioning, and you know, it's a kind of what came first, because there can, and people can get very, very passionate, and they can argue about their stuff. And the thing is I think it's all right. I think all of it, I think it's all connected and it's all right. And then we just have different ways of maybe explaining that version. So, you know, because people can, for some reason, I had all of this stuff coming up in my feeds of understanding what a psychopath is and what a sociopath is. And I'm like, I don't know. So somebody who's spiritual might be like, hey, maybe God's trying to tell me something. Maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's, you know, maybe it's me. Am I a psychopath? Am I a narcissist? I'm like, that's the first thing most people who've been through abuse, they start questioning. And once, go ahead, Jagger, you can ask any questions and I will try to answer those. You can, so somebody that's from a spiritual perspective, they're going to explain it, you know, maybe from a religious or spiritual aspect of this is God. Somebody from science will maybe focus on the algorithms, and because of the things that you've clicked on, the algorithm or AI is now feeding you those kind of things, right? So are you the problem in your relationships? I always take ownership and look to myself first, versus blaming other people, right? So, but that is also a trauma response. So it's kind of like a balancing thing, right? You know, some of this is a dichotomy that needs to be managed, right? Because the first thing, if you've been through trauma, and especially childhood trauma, a child will automatically assume responsibility for the things that have happened to them, because that's not a relevant question. Thanks, Jagger. But, you know, a child will automatically assume responsibility for the abuse that's being put on them out of a need to feel like they have some sort of control over the situation that they're going through. And because the reality of not being all the time, don't you, that's the whole topic tonight, is denial. Denial is, I don't even know I am lying, which in and of itself is a trauma response. Tell me this, Jagger, do you lie to yourself? And what's the point of your question? Like, are you just here to be a jackass, or are you being legit and you actually want to know the purpose of this? Because if you're here to troll, fuck off. If you're here for some help and some guidance, or you want to participate, great. Okay, but if you're going to be a jerk, go do that someplace else. Okay? Because I'm here trying to actually help people and share what has actually helped me. So as we go through this stuff, you know, we can catch ourselves in states of denial. And if anybody is in denial, don't rip that cloak of denial off of them. It is a protection mechanism. It is a survival mechanism. How you break somebody out of denial isn't by poking at them and yelling and screaming at them. There's a story of the sun and the wind having a competition, that there's a man walking on the ground and he's got this coat on, and the sun and the wind have a bet saying, I bet I can get that man to take his cloak off before you can. So the sun's like, all right, I'll take that bet. And the wind says, okay, I'm going to go first. And it just blows harsh, cold wind as hard as it can. I'm just going to blow that cloak off of him. And what does the man do when the wind picks up and it's blowing and it's harsh and it's cold on him? He pulls that cloak of denial on him even tighter. So the wind's all frustrated and pissed off, going, I don't know, this guy, he's too much. He can't be helped. And so the sun comes on, goes, okay, let me try. So the sun just comes on and just pours all this warmth and this love and this light into him. And now the man is like, oh, it's warm and I actually don't need this cloak for protection anymore. And so he takes the cloak off. So this is how you deal with somebody who is in denial. You cannot blow that cloak of denial off. It actually is harmful to them, right? And so you have to be able to create an environment where the cloak is no longer needed. That is the better solution. That is the longer, more effective way. So you can go for your short-term wins. Sure, you can actually rip the cloak of denial off, and you can, beat somebody down into seeing the problems that they're doing. And sometimes, you know what? That is effective in getting somebody's attention, right? To get them to wake up, right? So sometimes those kind of things, but it's short-term. You cannot do that long-term. You do that long term, and all they're going to do is require that denial to kick back in and not take ownership of what they are doing in their life. So when you create an environment where there's love, where there's kindness, where there's support, they no longer have the need for whatever addiction, whatever problem that they have been relying on. The only reason they are doing that is because it actually serves them, because it is too much for them to deal with. So if somebody is relying on an addiction, it is because that is easier, that dysfunctional coping mechanism is actually more effective than whatever pain that they were having to deal with. So if you are so shallow and so short-sighted and haven't done any inner work yourself, you're going to think, just beat them over the head. Just wake them up, shake them out of it, and that'll get them to do what they need to do. They can't handle the truth about themselves. Yeah, you are really projecting a lot, Jagger, and I I don't know why you're here doing this. Do you need to talk? Please share. Hey, Chloe. Hey, Bubbles. Bubbles is my mom. So, guys, you know, you can try going for the quick solution, and you can fuck off anytime too. But I'm having fun, so go ahead, fill your boots, whatever you got to do. You're entertainment for me at this point. So you can go for the quick solution, and you can. My childhood was extremely traumatic. How about yours, Jagger? Wow. So you can go for that quick solution, but there will be long-term consequences for it. That people will not trust you, they will not open up to you, they will not share things, and if they are not doing that, then you can actually solve the problem, because you will be dealing with all of these distorted views, right? Yeah, our childhood makes us, and becoming aware of what happened in our childhood gets us to the ability that we can change things, we can reprogram things. Just like we were conditioned for certain responses in our childhood, we made certain decisions in our childhood, we can go back, we can look at that, and then make a new decision based on what is going on with ourselves. If we've done some inner work, though, if we continue to operate from the same old perspective, then not much changes, right? So, so you can go through these things, and you can start to look at what's going on in your life, in your business, and you can start to assess whether or not the things that you're doing is effective, right? And that can change depending on the situation, right? So, and it's always a balancing act, right? We have to go, okay, you know what? I went a little too far to the left, and now I went a little too far to the right, because you're overcorrecting. And then you find some balance, and then maybe there's new variables that get put in, and the old way of operating now becomes no longer effective. And this is going to happen regardless whether you're doing this in your personal life or in your professional life. You can do this in a sales process where you're following a certain process, and now all of a sudden this is no longer effective, right? And you're like, okay, well, now we have to change, we have to adapt, we have to look at what's going on. Why isn't this working anymore? What happened? What variables have changed? And then we modify, we tweak, we learn, we grow. That's the whole point of being human, right? Is to be able to learn, adapt, and grow, overcome, understand. But if you're not looking at that stuff, if you're not taking time to reflect and understand why is this happening, then you're just going to default to the same old pattern, and it doesn't actually change anything, and you're not actually looking at the effectiveness of the results. Is it getting you what you want? So you can do that, and sure, it's going to maybe get you, so example, people who yell at their kids, it works great in the first little bit, and you can actually get people to do things by yelling at them. And then what ends up happening is you have to yell louder, you have to be meaner, you have to do all of those different kinds of things, and then the law of diminishing returns, right? Because you went for the quick fix rather than digging down to the root cause and finding a corrective action. And that works in recovery, that works in personal inner work, or in business stuff. You have to understand, what is it that caused the problem in the first place? What kind of decisions did you make at the time that were effective at that time? They served you. That's why you actually made that decision. Whoops. So just know that whatever decision we made is because we felt that that would give us the best outcome at the time. But as time goes on, we have new perspectives, we have new variables, we have new information that we didn't have at the time that we made that decision, and now sometimes we need to make different decisions, right? So I thought I healed my childhood trauma, but recently felt like I have not. And you know what, Ames, that can happen as you go along. And I've, even when I was doing my original healing work in recovery around sexual abuse, one of the things that they did talk about is that women can do a lot of healing around sexual abuse, but then they have children. And all of a sudden, new stuff starts to come up. And I know that happened for me as well. So I did a lot of work around it. And then I was around my friends who had young children. And just being around young children kind of gave me a different perspective of understanding. I all of a sudden, because when you're doing the healing work originally, I was like, okay, I understand intellectually, okay, it wasn't my fault, I got rid of a lot of the shame around that kind of stuff. But when I was around an actual 3 and 4-year-old child, and I was like, it really gave me, it drove home the perspective. It's like, here I thought I was taking on all the blame myself, that I should have known better. So I was judging myself using an adult mind, judging the child version of me, of what I should or shouldn't have done. And when I saw an actual 3-year-old child, and 3 or 4-year-old child, and watching her interact with her younger brother, and they were the same distance, age distance apart as my brother and I saw them interacting, I was like, oh shit, like she can't even put her own shoes on. She like, you know, needs help with these basic things, and I wasn't putting that frame of reference on. I was judging that child version of me as the adult 20-something-year-old version of me, and thinking I should have been able to do something different. And when I saw that, I was like, oh shit, okay, now I'm getting it, right? So it was a different layer of being able to heal, that kind of thing. And that can also happen too in business, right? So one of the things that had happened for my childhood is that I had told what had happened, what was going on with me. And then, but nothing happened because they didn't have those kind of rules. Like I told teachers what were going on. And now if you told the teacher that you were being sexually abused at home, there would be a very different reaction from when I told what happened. And, you know, so I had compounding abuse too. So not only was the sexual abuse, but I had a whole bunch of kids at school because one of the girls that was actually jealous of me, I have no fucking idea why, but she was jealous of me. She didn't like that I got attention. And so she, when I confided in her, because I thought she was my friend, she actually went around and told a bunch of people at school. And as I was walking into school one day, a bunch of the kids started chanting, Tina got fucked by her father. And I was devastated, and I told the school teacher when I went in. My friend was there comforting me, though. And so this kind of stuff, so I had compounding abuse that happened of when I spoke up, that my friends, or people that I thought were my friends, they turned on me. I told teachers, and that taught me that I wasn't valuable. All of those kind of things ended up happening. So, but I didn't really dig into that until I ended up having a very strong reaction in a work environment where I didn't feel like I was being listened to, and I was being called out in the work environment. They thought I was overreacting for the situation, which they were, but because I've done healing work and I do inner work and I look within to go, okay, what's going on with me? Where is this coming from? Why is the, hey Alfred, good to see you. Why is the reaction out of proportion for what's going on? So this is where I start looking at the 80-20 rule. 20% of it is what's going on today. So, and this is happening, this is being allowed to happen as the trigger so that I could go back to the past, because the only way we can go back to the past is kind of look at it, see where we made certain decisions about things, and then start to, thanks Abdul, start to actually make different decisions in today. Because if you're having an extreme reaction to something going on today and everybody else is like, what's going on? I can promise you it's tied to past trauma, whether that's a recent past trauma or way back from childhood. But the only way that we can actually heal it is by looking at it, understanding, hey, where did that come from? And what's going on with me that I can make a different decision, right? And that's how we prevent ourselves from that wounded child reaction, right? Or that reaction that we're having, right? And then we can choose to respond. So this is how we are able to change it from reacting to response, being responsive. And then we can choose to react like reasonable, rational, logical adults that are trying to solve a problem, rather than a wounded child that is reacting and trying to lash back out because people are hurting you, right? So there's a big difference in being able to catch yourself in that process. But had I not gone through the experience of a work environment where I did not feel like I was being listened to and I wasn't being heard, and although that was 100% true of what was going on, my reaction was out of proportion in the work environment for what was going on. And this can happen with friends too, right? So this can happen in a work environment, or it can happen with friendship. If maybe you have an extreme reaction to a friend doing something and you feel like, oh, they've betrayed you and that's it, you're cutting them off and you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater kind of reaction with your friend, and you destroy a friendship, oftentimes what's going on there is it's past wounding, past trauma that's coming up. That is, you're like, see, I knew it. This is happening again, right? So until we start changing that filter and seeing where did the original wound happen, this is why we have to trace it back to the past. Not to get stuck in the past, but to understand, hey, where did I actually make a certain decision as a child version of you? And then how do I actually change it so that you're not tied to the past, and it severs that tie so that you can see, okay, yes, that happened, and now how can I take care of myself in today to give myself the things that I need? Maybe as a child you were not able to set a boundary because there's completely different power dynamics, or you didn't have enough information to know that you could do things a different way. Right? So this is where you start to look at your past, and you make different decisions, and that's how you heal the past, is by changing the present so that you can have a better future outcome. So these are all things. So as I was going through this stuff, it kind of brings me back to this nature nurture thing. And sorry, I'm just going to scroll back up here. I'm not sure if I went off on a tangent, Ames, or if I helped you answer the question. I thought I had healed from my childhood trauma, but recently have not, right? So yeah. So this stuff has happened. And if this stuff is coming up for you, it's coming up because you are actually ready to look at it and heal it. So if there's different layers that you haven't dealt with from the past, when you're finally in a place where you're safe, it can now come up for you to be looking at this for healing, for being in a safe environment. Hey Chantal, welcome on Facebook. So being able to go through the stuff. So example, I am going through a lot of stuff. I have done a lot of healing work, but I keep having more and more come up. But I don't look at that as a bad thing. And I don't look at like, oh, I haven't done the healing work. No, this shit is coming up for me because it's been so long since I've looked at this stuff. And part of my mission, part of what I want to do to be able to help people is I want to help 1 million people heal their past trauma by sharing what I've been through, what I've done to get through this. Because most people, before I actually started talking about this, they thought I just had this fucking awesome, happy life and I never experienced any problems. And I'm like, bitch, no. I've been through fucking hell and back. I have got the roadmap. I know all the secret great places to eat, what places to avoid, all of that kind of stuff. I have got all of that stuff, right? So I share this stuff, and this stuff starts coming up as a reminder to me. So like the aches and pains that I had today, I took that as a signal of, hey, this was something that I was actually, when I first started my recovery journey, I did a lot of in-depth work of different things that come up in your body, right? Of how trauma is correlated to different illnesses in your body, and how you can deal with that, and the connections with addictions, like when I gave up smoking, and how that correlated to different emotional connections, and solving some of those addiction and withdrawal symptoms by understanding what kind of emotions were around that, and then how do you solve those kind of things. Because when you do that, then you're able to put the right solution in place, or a healthier solution in place to solve that same need. So if you are, the example that I give is craving ice cream. So an emotional component when I'm craving ice cream, it's that mother's milk, that emotional connection kind of thing. So I'm like, if I find that I'm craving ice cream and I'm trying to change some things in my diet, or I know that when I eat ice cream it really upsets my stomach, so I don't want to do that and cause problems for myself. So understanding, why am I craving the ice cream? Oh, is it an emotional thing, or is it also because when I eat ice cream, maybe it's a calcium thing. Do I need a calcium supplement? Have I been getting enough calcium in my diet? And that's why my body is telling me to crave ice cream. Because our body, like, it's about recognizing our body's innate intelligence and being able to listen to what it is our body needs. So the joke of like women that crave ice cream and pickles, and it's like, okay, well, they understand. It's like, oh, maybe pickles are the source of potassium or salt and sodium that she would want, and calcium. It's like, okay, maybe the body is saying, hey, we need calcium and we need sodium in here, or potassium. So like, get that to us ASAP. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm craving those things because my body is requiring certain components. So if you're craving chips, is it that your body actually needs potassium? Or is it an emotional thing because you are angry and you want salty, crunchy foods? Or maybe there's a dopamine thing, because I just learned on TikTok the other day that apparently craving salty foods is a vehicle for us to process the dopamine, that we need that sodium or something like that. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, so, but I thought that was an interesting concept I'm like, okay, there's reasons why our body is craving certain things, and understanding why does our body crave those things. Is it more of an emotional thing? Is it more, hey, maybe you are craving ice cream because you're feeling nostalgic and your family used to go out for ice cream together, and maybe you're just missing your brother or your mom or something like that, right? So it's understanding why am I doing the things? Not why are you doing the things, or why are they doing the things. It's really looking at ourselves and recognizing our own patterns, right? So one of the things is I find that if I'm craving chocolate a lot, one of the things that I do when I have chocolate is I also drink a lot of water, right? Or if I'm craving sugary snacks, because I will drink an excess amount of water. So sometimes what I'll do, instead of going for that chocolate or the sugary snack first, I will drink a bunch of water to see if that solves the craving for what my body knows, that because my body recognizes my own patterns even if I'm not paying attention to them. It knows that, hey, when she eats a bunch of the sugary stuff, she drinks extra water, and what we actually need is extra water. So paying attention to those kind of things gives you that. You can make better choices, and you're not such a slave or so reactive to not understanding why you're doing the things that you're doing. Is it more of an emotional or is it more of a physical? And one starts to affect the other, right? So it's a bit of a chicken and the egg kind of thing. And like I said, people can argue, back to what I was talking about before, of psychopaths and sociopaths coming up. And when they talk about psychopaths, you can see it in their brain chemistry and all that kind of stuff, and all these different things. And I know that, yes, there's alterations in the brain and everything, but what caused those alterations, right? Was it trauma responses over a long period of time? Because I can promise you, anybody they're not born a psychopath unless they've had some sort of physical trauma, right? And that comes back to the genetic material that was provided by the parents. Were the parents alcoholics, drug addicts? Were they experiencing trauma, right? Autism, is some of that connected to trauma, right? I think this is why it's like, some people will argue, no, it's just chemistry, and you need to treat those chemical components with these drugs, and they're just missing these pieces, and if you provide those pieces, then they're going to be fine. And I'm like, okay, that's great. However, that's more of a short-term fix of, let's look at more the root cause. It's like, how did those chemical reactions in our brains start happening in a certain way, right? And I don't know, I don't have those answers for it, but I think it's worth looking at that. And also too, because I don't think there's enough study of understanding what different energy, like, the emotional component, because if you scream and yell at a child, it does affect their brain chemistry. So these things, it's like, which came first? Is it because their brain chemistry is fucked up and they started with bad raw material, or is it that if they experience these kind of situations, these kind of traumas over a long period of time, it now physically alters the brain? And if that's the case, then can we look at, is there a way to reverse that? Are we, and this is, I think, where neuroplasticity comes into play, of how you can, would being in a loving environment alter that brain in the correct way, right? So it can be easy to default to fear, quick fix kind of tactics, take the Tylenol, but there's long-term consequences of it, and we don't see the damage of those long-term consequences until it's been over a long enough period of time of, hey, there's actual damage here now. Because nobody scanned that brain of that psychopath when they were a child, before all of the shit that happened to them happened, right? So we don't know. All we're doing at this particular time is seeing a snapshot. We're making an observation of what the current state is. We're seeing the effects of it, we're not seeing the cause of it, right? Thank you, Rev. Good to see you. So these are things that I always get a little concerned when people are very, very rigid and adamant about, no, it's this one way. And I think you're blocking off the possibility of other solutions if you're not open. Now, if you're too open, then you have no structure, no framework, and you do have to have some sort of balance between that, because if you don't have any rigidity or some sort of structure, some solid core components, then you can't actually move forward. No different than if we didn't have our skeletons, we would just be like gelatinous blobs kind of thing, right? So we have to have that firmer structure. So yeah, these are costs of denying any of our emotions, our what has happened to us, thinking that the past doesn't affect us, and you should just start from today and just program your mind to go forward and don't worry about the past. It's like, no, actually, I think there are lessons that can give us valuable insight if we actually take the time to take a look. Now, we have to balance some of that out as well, right? We all have to live, we all have to move forward, all that kind of stuff. But I think these are things that can be managed, right? That it's about recognizing when these things do come up, how to manage them, what kind of tools will actually work, and creating an environment where people have the opportunity to actually explore that and understand what's going on with them, so that they can bring insight, clarity, awareness, and having the right tools to be able to know how to look at that and how to remove those cloaks of denial. Because if we continue to operate in denial, then we will always gravitate towards short-term fixes. And I've been through enough change management projects in business to know that if you end up having way too much structure, because what ends up happening is you go for those quick fixes. So you put a new SOP, you put a new system, new implementation, you're just like, well, we're now going to do this, and we've solved that. So just do this, follow this process, everything's going to be fine. And you stack process after process after process until you strangle the shit out of yourself and your business, and you have so many constraints that you can't actually do anything. Your organization is so bloated, and trying to get any decision made is like trying to turn the Titanic on a dime, and it just doesn't happen, right? And things are so slow, nothing moves forward, and then you have to bring in all these experts to tear down all the structures that were put in as quick band-aid solutions that eventually end up needing to be torn down, streamlined, and I've done enough of those kind of things as well, too. Of these processes are so outdated. The whole reasons that they were implemented in the first place aren't actually even a problem anymore, because we made this correction over here, and now we're just following it because this was the way we did it. So we just did it, and nobody questioned anything. So you have to find that balance between questioning, do we need to fix this? Why are we doing these particular processes? Why are we doing these particular things? And what actually needs to be changed going forward? Is this enough of a problem that we should look at this now? And also taking some of the time to look at some of the smaller things that maybe they're not a big burning bonfire problem right now, but they're small enough that they're minor annoyances. And I understand you have to do a cost-benefit analysis. I've done those before. I remember the first one I had to do. I was ordering supplies, and I wanted to order some different set of highlighters because they looked like they would, the description said they would last longer, and here's why, and all that kind of stuff. So my boss, just for an exercise, a stretch exercise, she made me do a cost-benefit analysis on why we should get these highlighters over these highlighters and how that would save us money, because I knew how fast we were going through the cheaper ones, and these other ones I had actually bought myself personally, and I knew they lasted a lot longer. So when I did the cost-benefit analysis over a long enough time horizon for these stupid highlighters, then because I went through the exercise and I put in the work and I did the cost, I did a spreadsheet and I said, these are how long and this is how often we've ordered. Here's the past data of what we've actually used. And this is how frequently we order these highlighters. However, these other highlighters, I have had this for this amount of time. The cost is this. So when we compare the time horizon between the two, this one is actually the cheaper option, even though it looks more expensive in the front end. So these are, whether we're doing this in our business or whether we're doing this in our personal life, we have to take a look at understanding what is working for us and make those adjustments based on where we're at right now, right? So maybe sometimes the budget is a little bit tighter and we have to opt for some of those cheaper alternatives just to have something. And then other times we're like, okay, no, I can invest a little bit higher on the front end so that it lasts longer on the back end. Whatever that is. And when we're healing, whatever stuff that is coming up for us today is because we are now ready to heal something for the past. So any of those frustrations, those aggravations we're experiencing, those reactions that we're having, those are a good thing to start diving into. Where am I being super reactive with things? And or is your body kicking up a fuss with different things? Is that because you've shifted things, you've been doing some inner work like I've been doing? And like I said, I'm okay with this stuff coming up. I'm not freaking out about it. I'm not like, oh no, I'm never going to heal again. And it's like, no, this shit is coming up because I need to remember what it was like so that I can give you guys a roadmap, because it's been so long. I'm 52, soon to be 53 next month. But I did this work when I was in my early 20s, right? All through my 20s. So I forget what it was like to be in those situations. I forget that early discovery process, and I'm remembering it because these things are coming up. It's like, oh, I'm feeling a lot of pain in my body. Oh, is this connected with the emotional stuff? Oh, okay, I remember I did this work and I did these things and I read these books, because it's so unconscious for me that I just do this. So if I'm going to help somebody else through this, I need to be able to break these things down. So I am not worried. So if any of you are out there thinking, fuck, is she ever going to get through this? Is she ever going to heal? Why is she still in this shit? Like, you know, why is she still feeling all these problems? Blah, 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 blah. There's a fucking reason for it. And I know why I'm going through this. Why? Because I really want to be able to help somebody else deal with this stuff, because it is a problem, and I think it is a problem on more levels than just it's a personal problem, right? That this affects all areas of our life: health, wealth, our businesses. We interact with people on a daily basis. Whether this is your customer that you're dealing with and they're overreacting, this could be a trauma response. This is an opportunity, if you're aware, that you can offer some level of healing. I'm not saying that you have to be the therapist or anything like that, but you mitigating the reactions and not revalidating their trauma, whatever trauma response, because people will seek that out. And it's like, you know, if they have this negative mind track that nothing ever works out for me and people are always mean to me, and you come along and you react to their negative reactions and prove to them that people are mean to them, then you're reinforcing their trauma. So you can choose a different path by being aware of your own stuff, being aware how you want to respond in the situation. How can I respond in the most loving, helpful, healing manner to this person. And if you want more business terms, then this is just good customer service, okay? Of making sure that the customer is having a good experience. And if you are high ticket at all, then you're going to make sure that the customer is having the best customer experience, even if that means putting your own emotions to the side so that they can have the best customer experience. Same thing with your business, with your employees, any of the conflict that you're experiencing within it. So there's two ways in dealing with conflict, okay? Number one, first and foremost, your ultimate priority is to deal with your own emotions around it. Are you feeling heated? Are you feeling upset? Are you feeling reactive in the situation? Then that is the number one thing that you have to deal with is, okay, I'm reacting here. 20% of this is what's going on today. Because if I was in a great space, if everything was sunshine and rainbows and like we just had the best month and somebody brought the same problem to me, would I be reacting as negatively if this was the very first time somebody brought this problem to me and it wasn't a big deal, right? So mitigate our own reactions, number one. Okay, what's going on with us? And you can't do that if you haven't done any inner work. If you haven't figured out, oh, you know what? I know every time that somebody doesn't listen to the things that I am saying to them, they don't take my advice, they don't take my viewpoint. I'm not saying I always have to be right, but if I feel like I'm just being dismissed and that my opinion isn't being considered as valuable, then it is going to rub on that past trauma wound, that of not being heard as a child, not being valued. It's going to trigger that. But because I know that about myself, I can mitigate my reaction and kind of go, okay, that's not what's going on here. If they're not now, because I've managed my own emotions, I can look at giving myself what I need, first of all, and go, okay, that's not what's going on here, Tina. My opinion does matter. I'm in a safe place, and if it gets too traumatic that I'm in an environment where people do not value my opinion, I don't have to stay in that environment. I am free to leave, whereas as a child, I was not free to go someplace else, right? So, or to change, I didn't have the power to change that circumstance. So now that I know that, I've given myself what I need. I know that I'm safe. I know that every problem is solvable if you choose to look for a solution. So now that I've mitigated my side, now I can look at the other person's side and understand why they're being reactive. What is their fear? It's either love or fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Everything is either a cry for or an expression of love. So if I know that the problem is solvable and somebody is reacting and they're flipping out, and like think of a customer coming in going, I got the wrong friggin' order, but and they're freaking out, right? They're angry, they're fearful, they're upset. I know I can solve it. It's like, okay, what was your order? Okay, we are going to fix that for you. Here you go. Here's your correct order. Okay, you're upset because now it took you some time. Great. I'm going to give you this too for your extra time. It's all solvable. I am expressing love, and their fear is false evidence appearing real. So you treat the same way if you're having an internal conflict. You take the principle of the situation, that they're upset because this is not the first time it's happened to them. Nobody starts reacting this way because it's the first time it's happened to them. They're reacting because it's overwhelming and they've tried to solve it, it's not getting solved, and now they're upset about something. Okay? So when we look at it from that kind of perspective, they are viewing it from the filter of like, yep, it's the same old shit that's happening again, and I've had it, and I'm not going to put up with this anymore, and I'm tired of this happening. So now they're being reactive to it. And that's the reason for the conflict. So if we can get ourselves in a state of being calm, that we are okay within ourselves. Now we're at a higher vibration. We're in a state of love, which means we have enough to give to others and help solve the problem by being able to seek to understand what is upsetting them in the first place, and then looking to solve. It's like, oh, you're upset because you didn't get the report on time? Okay, we can put something in place to make sure that the report is happening on time. The only reason that they're reacting in that way is because they're taking it as a personal slight, which it is not. So thank you, amazing. I appreciate that. So it must be all the intellectual stuff, and I'm just really flowing here. So it's a good vibe, a good energy that's flowing here. So I love talking about this kind of stuff and being able to understand and see how stuff that is related to trauma can actually help a business run better. And those have been my secret superpower weapons that I am sharing for free on the internet for those who care to take the time to listen to my rambles. Okay, so these are things that I've been able to, and this is why I was always given the hell gig clients, right? I was given the people that were difficult to deal with, that were always problems. Why? Because I've done a lot of inner work, and I would actually be able to seek to understand what is their true problem. And this is the whole point of sales too. Anybody who's listening that's a closer, that's sales, any of that kind of stuff, your objection handling isn't about the script or the fucking line that you have to say. It's about trying to understand what is their real concern. Does this product or service that you are selling actually solve their fucking problem? Focus on that. Does it actually solve it, and actually help them understand what is going on behind the scenes? Why are they afraid? And help them overcome their fear. When you help them overcome their fear, then they can actually solve the problem, right? That's the whole point. All businesses exist to solve a problem for a human being. That's it. You're not solving a problem for a machine. You're solving a problem for a human being. We are all connected that way. All business exists to solve that problem. And if you aren't actually solving the problem, then and you bring a bunch of people in, those people that you have brought in because you got them with a certain line or a technique or a script or some skeevy fucking bullshit, then that will become the problem in your business, because now those people came in under a certain conceived idea of how their problem was going to be solved, and now their problem isn't being solved the way that they thought it was going to be solved, and now you have a bunch of customer service headaches, and now you're having a whole bunch of people that you have to layer in. You have a bunch of complaints, and you have systems and processes and all this other bullshit you have to put into your business because nobody took the time to solve the problem on the front end and understand and truly understand the person that's sitting across from them, whether or not your product or service will actually solve the problem. And why does that happen? Because sales reps are measured by their KPIs. How many fucking sales did they get across, rather than how many people are they truly actually helping? Hold them accountable to that. Hold them accountable. Did you bring them in just to get the sale, or did you bring them in because our product, our service will actually truly help them? That's what we focus on. But we go for the short term. So, my way is going to slow down your profitability. It will. And you might be like, fuck Tina, I'm not listening to you. Well, okay, get to a certain level. When your company is a disaster, then you can bring me in and I can help you with the change management. And now we can put in the pieces, because it's so much more work to, there's never time to do it right, but there's always time to do it over. That was always a famous saying, until we ended up having to bring in change management into our big enterprise company that I was working in. And we had to have marketing and posters and costs and all that stuff. Why? And what the motto was, do it right the first time. Just saying, do it right the first time. There's pros and cons to it, though. There's pros and cons to it, because at the same time, you don't want somebody at the front line where you need speed of implementation, because I will slow things down. But I am great for the second wave to come in and clean the shit up. So if you need to get the foundation, the structure in, and then kind of come in and tidy, that's where you bring in me, right? This is where you can help. I can help a business become happier and their people become happier, because we go in and we work together to clean things up. And if you don't do that, then eventually you're going to end up having to deal with the trauma from it. And there's nothing more traumatic for a business when you've added in so many layers of people. Now you have to do mass layoffs. And that is traumatic. I've been through organizations where, you know, they knew their costs were out of control. The Band-Aid solutions had built up to a point that they now are putting in a system, and they're expecting an ROI. And that ROI means letting go of people, because they view people as their biggest cost, where people are actually their biggest asset if they are utilized properly, if they are encouraged properly. And then you can expand, and instead of getting rid of those people, you keep those people on, you start developing them for the next thing that you need, right? So having that short term, and when I say short term is that constricted trauma response focused, right? You know, your immediate threat, deal with immediate threat, only focus on those, right? But love is expansive, right? Healthy environments are expansive. You want a healthy, expansive, growing business. So trauma is not just for people who've been through traumatic environments, but you can help weed this stuff out in your business as well, because I can promise you there's people in your business who have been, and they are making decisions for your business that have been through trauma, and they have not healed that trauma, and this will cause problems in your business. You will lose some really good people because of the way they operate. And I'm not blaming them. I'm saying that they haven't healed their stuff. And it's a matter of warming things up so that people take off the cloak of denial, so that you can deal with the real problem. Because one of the coping mechanisms people will do is they will lie about things. They'll cover up. If they've been punished critically in their childhood, where if they fessed up about anything, but they were, you know, humiliated, shamed, or anything, guess what they're going to do in your business? They're going to lie to you about what the real problem is. They're not going to take ownership of it. They're going to deflect blame. They're going to put it on somebody else. They're going to be the abuser or be the abused, one of the two, right? And it's not effective. So understanding these human dynamics, understanding the psychology and the interactions and the sociology behind all of the things of how we interact as humans is really vital in all aspects of our life, right? Of trying to be happier, right? Of living more fulfilled lives. And I think us learning this both on an individual level and on a group level is really important for us being able to heal this entire world. That we can make a huge difference by taking the time to do this work. Even though it's painful, the rewards on the other side of it far outweigh any of that. And imagine what we could do as a species in this world if we all work together instead of fighting, whether that's in our our relationships, like, you know, your significant other, you're battling and scrapping, or your family unit, your community, your business, it all is interconnected. Our countries, whatever it is. Imagine we all learn to fucking get along. Why? Because we know the value of healing and doing that inner work. So, great job. Hey, TikTok just gave me a great job. I've been rambling here for 90 minutes. No wonder my throat's a little bit raspy now. So, guys, it's been great. Not bad considering I really didn't have any notes and I just had a couple of things of topics. Thank you so much for the interaction and the questions. Ames, I appreciate you being on here as well. For those that have joined in partway through and you want to catch the replay, I will be uploading this to my YouTube channel. You can also pick it up on my Facebook. So my YouTube channel is Coach Tina B 125. And also my Facebook, you can find me Tina Balmer on Facebook. And you'll see some of my art therapy. So some of the stuff in the background here, these are some of the paintings that I've done as part of my process for healing. This process of painting actually helps calm my mind, helps me stay in the present moment, which is really effective when I'm processing a lot of emotions from the past, coming back and grounding in the present moment, reminding myself that I am safe. It's also expression too. So this one, I actually, so I don't know if you see this. This one here. So, like I said, people see me as somebody who's pretty happy-go-lucky, but this painting here, it seems nice enough. I would go for walks on the beach at sunset, and I'd always watch those. I like daisies, so I put that as a happier flower. But when I painted this, I was struggling. It was about a year ago, and I was struggling really heavy with suicidal thoughts. And I thought I wanted to paint with blood coming from her arms, and which is pretty graphic and everything. But I refused to paint that into existence. So for me, this painting actually represents that one little thing that you can fight against to allow yourself to stay one more day, that you're not going to give into those dark whispers that try to tell you to give up, whether that's to the extreme of like suicidal thoughts, or to a business entrepreneur, you're thinking of shutting down your business, or you're thinking of giving up on a relationship, a friendship, a job, whatever it is, as a reminder to stick in one more day. You know, just hang in there one more day. Don't react, right? Respond. And if it's still a problem the next day, then you can choose to do something different, right? If it's still not working. So, guys, I hope you guys found this helpful. Check me out on my channel. You'll see my artwork there. If you like the prints, you like the art, or you find that there's some meaning, you're like, hey, that's something good, you can buy a fridge magnet, you can buy a print, you can buy a canvas of it, original artwork. If you want that, you can reach out to me, and we can talk about what it would take to ship that to you. So guys, this has been fun. I love doing this. I hope you found it helpful. If there's things that you're struggling with, relationship is about understanding your partner and not letting your anger control you. Yes. It's about understanding yourself too, and when you understand yourself better, it makes you able to understand your partner better and be able to be there for them. Because you understand yourself, you're able to understand that anger that you have, that anger is really fear, and fear is just a cry for love. It's false evidence appearing real, and when you understand that, and understand and manage your own fears and give yourself the love that you need to calm that child part of you that is afraid, right? Then you can, when you give that to yourself, now you have enough to give and extend that love to your partner, right? So if you are both in a state of reacting and you operate from that place of understanding that those angry feelings are just fear, and that's not real. Love is the only thing that's real, okay? And when we focus on that, that's how we focus on solutions. That's how we work together. This is how we do what is in the best interest of ourselves and others, even if that means sometimes having to do hard decisions, right? So sometimes that means letting a partnership go, letting a business go, because it's now causing harm to the other person, or causing harm to, you know, if you find out, say you make a product and you're like, hey, it solves a problem, but now you find out that you didn't know the long-term effects of the thing that you created, and now you're like, well, shit, this is actually causing, like, say, cigarettes, right? Okay, this actually gives people cancer, but we make money from it, so it's like, you know, is the right thing to do, if you're operating from a place of love, is the right thing to do to get rid of that product, right? Maybe it's killing a product in your product line. Maybe it's changing it, tweaking it. So, you know, like the candy, like Smarties, right? They don't have those colored, those chemical colored candies now. They do a natural sourced one. Why? Because they know that there's negative effects from those chemicals that they were using. So you maybe don't have to kill it, but you innovate, you change, right? Or you can be angry that people are bringing up the fact that this is a problem, right? So, which is just fear, because that's going to hit your profits, that's going to hit your bottom line. Will our company exist if our entire product relies on this? Or you can recognize your fears and realize that those are just false evidence appearing real, and give yourself, okay, how can we solve this? How can we do this? Can we create something different? Can we still solve the problem in a different way, right? So finding the innovation, but that's a whole other conversation we can go into for another night. So guys, we're going to wrap this up. The replays will be on YouTube, and it was great chatting with you again tonight. And we will see you again tomorrow night between 9 and 10, okay? Eastern Standard Time. Guys, thank you so much for the interaction on Facebook. If you are watching the replay, type in #replay. It'll help boost it in the algorithm. Chantel, Abdul, and Ray, Steve, great to see you guys. And Ames, thank you so much for coming out and asking questions. I really appreciate that. It gives me an idea of how to guide the conversation, and I love interacting like this. So have a great night, guys, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye.